they end up at their warehouse and they pull out all the money and they're sitting down exhausted and they start to divvy up the money and they're like, "We did it, guys. We absolutely did it." And the sort of lowest IQ bank robber turns around and goes, "Yeah, but did we get the cream cakes?"
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the digital download. It's a Friday look into content.
What?
One of the things that we wanted to do was to discuss content rather than debate it theoretically, was actually use examples of people's content to actually form the debate. So we can put the content up. We can then discuss it, and whichever way we want to take the conversation, and then everybody who's actually watching it can actually see the example, and hopefully will comment as well. As always, we're always looking for debate, comment, your views, anything in the chat. Talk to each other in the chat. Talk to us. We love all that. Ask questions, make comments. Anything, we love all that sort of stuff. Is anybody wants to go first with their content?
I'm happy to do so.
Do you want to go first then, Adam?
Yeah. Do you want me to share, or have you got it?
What, if you can.
Yeah. Well, actually, before I do, I thought I would say that it's an interesting thing, content, isn't it? It's one of those kind of conundrums that when we work with people, it has this level of fear attached to it. And it often begins with people just flipping corporate content, and then in time they find their own voice. But as I look out across my LinkedIn network, and I've been really careful about curating the people whose content I see in my newsfeed, what I see is that very rarely does content tick all of the boxes that it needs to tick to be successful. And I'm minded of a client of Eric's, and I won't mention them, unless you are welcome to, though, Eric. And the guy that is the CEO of the company said, we are not just an inspection company, we are a media company as well, which is, I think, a really profound and valuable comment to really dig into. Because one of the things that about being a media company is that you're not in the business of sharing information, you're in the business of entertaining. And if you think about when you go onto the TV, for example, and you watch some of the media that is presented to you, it doesn't matter whether it's kind of a live at the Apollo sort of stand-up comedian on stage in front of an audience, or whether it's a David Attenborough the Frozen Planet thing. And one of them is clearly pure humor and fun, and one of them is largely entertainment, largely education. And you consume that content and you learn stuff. Both of them, a very strong thread that they have running through them is that they're both really entertaining and they take you on a journey, and they're really enjoyable. Whether it's funny, personal, humorous content, or whether or not it's the sort of business, education, empowering sort of content. And I think that when I look out across the media stream on social that I'm presented with, obviously, we'll all have to go in that case. When I look out across them, what I see is that there's a huge amount of disparity. So what I see is that I see some people that have absolutely got the humorous, fun, personal content nailed. So we all know people that always post selfies, and it begins that the selfie gets 200 likes and gets 20,000 views, and then after 2 more weeks of it gets 70 likes, and after another 2 weeks of posting selfies every day it gets 50 likes, and then gradually it percolates down to the kind of the 10, 20 likes that we all kind of see on most bits of content that are out there. And I think that the challenge is always to find the thing that is educational, because actually if we're asking people, particularly on LinkedIn, to come and consume the content during their working day with a business hat on, there has to be something in it that is more than simply surfing the internet, because that's not sustainable in most work environments. But also it needs to be more than just a dry, boring, dull corporate post. And actually a great example of content that strikes a fantastic balance between those, and this isn't the content that I'm going to share today, is one of Eric's pieces of content where he does one of his videos with Jamie and Jason. So for those of you that haven't seen it, Eric does some
With a
great.
wig.
Sorry,
Wears a wig.
he wears two wigs, doesn't he? He wears his Jason
At the
wig.
same time.
Those people are actually friends of mine. They're real people.
I'm
No,
afraid
but
you believe that, Eric.
Yeah.
But they are, aren't they? And I think that that's the point. You live that as if you were a character actor. So each one of them has a very defined personality. Each one of them is making a point about somebody that is entrenched in their business life. And the reason that you're doing it is, well, I assume as the viewer, what I see is that you're trying to shake people out of that malaise that they have of being stuck believing that actually this is what I need to do, and see that there's a bigger world out there and there are new things open to them. So it's really clever bit of content, but unfortunately that's the rarity. If everything like that we saw on social was of equal content, infringement. Adam isn't going to use the video because I'm certainly not going to promote Eric on here.
Yeah, good idea. Good idea.
But I think that lots of people should watch that, and they should see examples of what.
Ouch.
I don't understand that.
This man speaks.
Ouch! Yeah.
It's all very well Richard Urich sitting there with his beautiful, like trendy haircut with follicles on top, looking like every inch the sort of like aging James Bond. Yeah, that's all well and good.
Yeah. So actually, the piece of content that I've brought with me today to talk about is this, which is a thought-provoking thing. So we've had James on as a guest on this show previously. He's a fantastic guy, works for SAP, and he's a very, very good storyteller.
Yeah.
And I think that even if you don't read every one of his posts, this one's quite a short one, but even if you don't read every one of his posts, he's a good guy to follow, because I think that the headline on this post is a great example of something that that hooks you in, but B, gives you pause for thought. The idea that we cannot, in either our personal or our business lives, we can't change everything. We can't craft everything exactly as we want it to be, but what we can do is change how we interact with those things and how we behave. And I think that that's a really important concept for us to all embrace. There's a huge difference between what should happen when we do something and what actually happens when we do something. And recognizing that often we can't control what actually happens. We can only control what we do. And making sure that the actions that we take steer the outcome that we want as much as we possibly can. So that was it. I just wanted to share this piece of content. He's a great guy to follow. Always interesting and thought-provoking stuff.
And the thing I like about James is there are global vice presidents at companies that do what SAP do, who are still stuck in corporate brochureware. But James has flipped all of his content around exactly what you said. He's a master storyteller. He loves the power of storytelling, and he will get the same point across. I mean, his piece here is basically advertising the fact that they had their sort of management SAP event in Croatia and Slovenia, right? But the rich content diversity and storytelling diversity that he works into this piece, this very much could have been, we had an amazing, great to be with all the team in Slovenia and Croatia, another great SAP away day. But he actually still tells us very engaging stories that draw you in, take you through a little emotional cycle, and he takes you through that sort of like the conflict piece, the resolution piece, through to the conclusion beautifully. And for all intents and purposes, this is a beautifully crafted piece of content that tells a story that other people are telling, but it tells it in a more engaging, enigmatic way, right?
Yeah, and I think you've nailed it there when you said about he could have kind of put his arms around two of the other speakers and taken a selfie and said, it's great to be here in Croatia. And actually, that's the cheap and easy thing to do. But actually, to tell a story around what that means requires you to do more work and have more thought about it. But ultimately, it engages at a much more important and pertinent level. It's a short piece, so it didn't take him weeks to write it. But what it does do is make people stop and think about something rather than just go, "Oh, look, there's James. He's traveling in Europe again."
And therein lies the rub. And I think there's a coin dropping moment for people that some people get.
You mean like a thunk?
Like a thunk moment? Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, right.
This gentleman has realised that he writes his content for people. Lots of people are still writing content for themselves. I'm putting this out because I feel I need to, or my business feels I need to, or this is just the same as everybody else's. This chap here and others like him have realised that the power is when you write content for people to allow people to engage with and lean into. Here's great to be in Croatia with the team is for me. Is for that person to feel good about the fact that they're kind of advertising the fact that they've been in Croatia. Day one of the event in Frankfurt, give me a shout if you want a chat. Day 2 of the event in Frankfurt, give me a shout if you want a chat. All that stuff just it's this kind of stuff we're supposed to do, right? Other people like James have realized that when you write content for people, people walk towards it and people put their little hooks into it and say, can't wait for the next one.
Well, can I throw a little wrench in here? Because there's also something a little more vulnerable, a little more revealing about a story being told, right? So it's easy to say, hey, here we are at the conference in our matching shirts. But would you guys say that there's a little more confidence that's needed to go the storytelling route?
There's thought and planning that is needed to go into that. I post every day a selfie because I'm told I have to post every day, and selfie is easy. You want me to think it through and plan and content plans? That sounds like work. I already have a job.
I think that's a great question about confidence. I think that confidence piece is bolstered by the fact that when you have that realization that I write my content for people. I write my content for people, not for myself. I'm not just writing my own stuff and putting it out there and being blind to everyone else's likes and dislikes and all of that. I'm actually writing content that I want people to be able to absorb. I think the confidence piece is bolstered by that because actually then you just end up really reaching into the core and just writing without shackles. I think maybe.
Yeah, I think that the photo of his us on the stand is becoming a bit of a cliche, isn't it?
That's exactly what it is.
I'm beginning to dread when the day's approaching that industry event, if it's an industry that I'm well connected in, because I know that week's content is going to be lots of people on stands. Great to be at day 1, meeting old clients and new. Looking forward to day 2. Day 2 was great. Looking forward to day 3. Looking more tired and hungover by the day, and it's just like my feed is just full of that stuff, and these little pockets of empathy, maybe vulnerability, or just connection with people, rise to the surface, percolate to the surface.
But also, I think it is that recognizing that you're in the job of entertaining people as well as educating people. So, the entertainment bit is quite easy. Here's a picture of me falling off my mountain bike. Here's a picture of me being vulnerable. Here's a picture of me, taking the selfie on the stand. But actually, what's the payoff for you investing time in reading that? Nothing. Now, those things have their places. Of course they do. Here's me with the kids on the beach. That's a lovely post for the weekend. Here's me with the kids on the beach every single day, 365 days a year. Actually, there comes a point when you go, oh, another one of those. So actually, there has to be something which fulfills other criteria in the content that you create. It has to be personal. It has to move me closer to you. It has to, as you said on a podcast we did, I think it was your podcast, Tracy, that we did the other day. You said, Eric, what is it that all the people that you trust most in your network, what do they all have in common? Well, you know them best. You know lots about them. So you have to do that personal stuff. You have to put yourself out there. But actually, how much more about you do I want to know? There needs to be something in there, doesn't there, of substance?
And is that because that there's this mistaken belief that that the output of social media or whatever it is that we're doing is the post, whereas the post isn't the output. The whole point of it's we're posting because we want a conversation. We want to get closer to people. Because we're trying to build a picture that we're empathetic and I'm a good person to do business with, and we're a great company to come and work for, and all of those things. And I think sometimes that's lost in this. We've got to get as many brochures out there as we can, because that's kind of what business is, and it isn't. I also would add, I think some people forget that social media is a global platform, and that there are different people in different parts of the world view things differently. So if you're sitting at a table where there's loads of food, you finish, but there's loads of food that's unfinished, it's all piled up in the middle. For some people, that's obscene.
Sure.
Seeing all of that food going to waste, that's not fun. That's actually obscene to people. Because we there's some people that can be viewing this. We have the technology where there are there's people starving in Syria in refugee camps who don't have enough food, and other people are posting pictures that we have an immense amount of food. And I think that's one of the things that sometimes we lose the grip of, because we've got to get a picture out. So we'll take a picture of us out having a curry, and it's all white bald men, and of course then that's the only people that you're going to recruit. I stand here and I declare an interest.
So at this point, we need to point out that Tim doesn't drink a lot of coffee, but he had a double espresso before he came on.
So I think that's one of the things about the filter that we have to put content through, is that that it is a global world out there.
Yeah, I think that one of the other things is that we can't downplay the importance of doing some of the personal element of these things. So I was on a team call yesterday with a company, and one of the people there was saying about posting stuff when people are in bicycle and them reaching out to you and all of these things. But it was very much, the comments were made from somebody with a marketing sort of mindset. So this idea that we put our content out there, everybody consumes our content. Those people that are ready to buy walk towards us and actually reach out to us, maybe not through the social channel, maybe through the website or whatever. But the reality is that it was Eric Schmidt, wasn't it, that said there's more data now created in any 48-hour window than there was from the beginning of recorded history through to 2003. So content we've got loads and loads and loads of content. What we need is context. So me resharing corporate brochures, hoping that somebody will read them, hoping that that person will believe what they read, hoping that they will mentally make a note of that and then walk towards us when they're ready to buy, is borderline delusional, because people are too busy. I'm too busy. I see a great bit of content when I'm ready to buy from a company, and for whatever reason, I don't action it at that moment, and then I forget who the company is. Because why wouldn't I? Because I've got no connection to them. They're just another company selling a product, and they're all the same.
May I go next?
Yeah, well, you're the host. You can decide.
Thank you. So this is a post from Catherine Cole. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to ignite the debate about LinkedIn versus Facebook. And what is a professional post and what isn't it? And so, here we have Catherine. She has a friend who's written a book, and she's really excited for the friend, and he's got a copy of it and is promoting it on her feed. Now, is that professional? Is that personal? Is that business? personally, I actually think it's all of those.
It's all of those.
It's all of those things. And you know, here it is, a great photo. She's got a big smile on her face. She's obviously really excited about her friend, and isn't that a wonderful thing? And we should be celebrating that.
We you know, back in the days, the early days when we first started this, I used to get regular, you know, this isn't Facebook. And I kept a note of the kind of dynamic and profile of that type of person. It's unfortunate that type of person is supporting a set of values that even this platform now doesn't support, because this platform has always promoted itself, and even more so today, has promoted itself as a place where professionals network.
Mm.
So adults that do things come and network. If you really drive into that, and usually you find that the people that will say that, you know, this isn't Facebook or something like that, don't understand networking. Don't understand the art and science of networking with human beings. And if you pull through the real, I mean, when I was in, and you guys will have all seen this before, there was someone that you worked with who was the brilliant networker, maybe better than us, right? Certainly better than me from my reference point. When I was early and in training, I had that's one calling right now. That's one calling. That's James Marlin calling, looking for royalties for Adam using his picture. But these specialists in networking that I just sat beside when I was a young salesperson, shadowing these maestros at networking, watching them in the client building, watching them at the event. They had something that others didn't have. I would also shadow other people that didn't know how to do it, but were great at writing proposals or scientific business development in the boardroom, developing business. But the networking gold was always about people who could absolutely tune into a person and have that person tune into them. You know, and it was almost like standing watching the professional networker at play at the network. It was almost like the person he's standing talking to can't see anyone else at the event. They're just so tuned in because this person is just so expert at properly. So what is networking? It's connecting at a deeper level with another human being to the point where this human being just wants to extend that conversation, right? If you were to boil it all away, wants to just spend more time with you, understand more. It's a two-way process, maybe a multi-channeled way process. How do we pull that through to digital? It's not so if we take that concept of brilliant networking, and the platform owners want us to come to a place where professionals network, then we need to be good at that, as good as those specialists were at networking in a digital arena. And that is not saying, here's a thing, do you want to buy a thing? It never was. It never was.
Because we didn't, you wouldn't do it at a networking event.
No, but exactly. You walk onto the stand and someone says, "Oh, that was crazy. The car park out there was murder. I sat for an hour waiting to park the car, and I had to get the kids to school." And
this is not Facebook.
Shut up. This isn't Facebook. This is a serious business event. Take my brochure, buy a thing for me, and get out. It's bizarre. So if you pull through the concepts and the beauty and nuance of networking and pull that through into digital, what we're seeing is the people who never understood that don't understand it here, because in 2009, this was a jobs board. I'm looking for project directors, and by the way, we have a shiny thing if you want to buy it. It was just ream after ream after ream of that. And it's morphed to become the beautiful thing, which is the go-to place where professionals network. And if you don't know how to do that, you will probably react violently and go, this isn't Facebook. But they've missed a point, and unfortunately they've been left behind.
Well, and one of the things this is making me think, it's making me think of this event that I went to when I was young in my career. My boss told us we couldn't leave the event until we had gotten 10 business cards each. And so I just went around the room and asked people for their business cards. Although I think to some degree that was memorable for them, because I don't think anybody else was doing that. I was like, I need to win this contest and I need to get 10 business cards first. But there's this piece about being memorable that I think people don't realize, that the memorable connection usually is related to something personal. I remember having a friend tell me about this event she was at, and everybody just, the main topic of conversation was the TV show 90 Day Fiancé. And you were in the cool kids at this networking event if you watched this show. And I was like, that has nothing to do with business. And if people didn't share those types of things, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't have like a kickoff point to start a conversation, right? So most of the time, those memorable things are, we both got stuck in the car park, or we both drink the same drink, or something that's not strictly business related.
Well, what happens is you don't necessarily remember that 90-day fiance conversation. You just remember the feeling that you had when you connected with that person and you said, this is my people, this is my tribe. And then later, when you're continuing to develop the relationship, you've established some trust, and then commerce can take place or referrals can take place. And you don't even remember it was because of some wacky TV show that you both happened to admit that you watch, even though you didn't want to admit that you watch. But it was just finding a common ground, the basics of networking.
What do you think about Andrew's comment?
Does the content need to be more
Does the
humanized?
content need to be more humanized or relatable, not only to the products you end up promoting, but showing that you are knowledgeable and about someone you want to communicate with?
Well, we happen to have the perfect mix, and that might sound a little bit conceited, but as Adam said, if you're just posting pictures of you with an ice cream cone down the beach, then that's all that will be remembered. Is exactly what Tracy said. If you're just posting high level, very complex project management software pictures, that's going to be forgotten pretty quickly, because that's appealing to such a niche audience and is going to bore people to death, especially if you're just selling at them. And if you just post the same kind of, like, you know, if a band brings out a single and they bring out the single the next time and it's exactly the same and exactly the same and exactly the same and exactly the same, they're going to lose their audience. So there's this beautiful mix. I've actually put a post out about it the other day. We call it the ABCs. Assistance. What are you actually giving to your network? Coaching, mentoring, help, useful information should be about 25% of your content if you want to get this right. Belief, giving proof that you know what you say it is you know without selling it at us. Your unique thought leadership and perspectives in reference on relevant industry topics and trending subject matter in the world. Again, 25% of your content. Imagine this is in a week. And your core, deep insight to you as a professional with a personality, your history, experience, specialism, knowledge, likes, dislikes, lessons you've learned along the way, and how you put them into work. Should be roughly 50% of your content if you want to leave that memorable thing. What does that give you? This person's a deep specialist, but they don't try and sell to us. They're there all the time, and I understand what they're there for, because 50% of their content resonates with that core. They're also very helpful and very insightful, and they actually don't mind giving us a hand, our network. And they're a nice person to be around, and they also give us a little bit of insight into what their life is like. So I can see that they're just like me. They've got this roughly the same hopes, fears, and desires as I have. Makes for quite a compelling case for proper connection, deep connection.
So when you put all of those things together, what have you got?
ABC, easy as
1, 2, 3.
I was going to say the look of love.
The look of love. ABC, I love it. Now, isn't it really funny when there's a phenomena occurring. We'll go and speak to management teams, and we'll show all the beauties of, you know, living out your life on social and all of that, blah 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 blah. And then we'll get to the point where we talk about and we need to mix in the personal in here, and that 0.01% of the overall thing is the thing that flares everyone up. So all of that stuff that we've spoken about here, this commercial rewiring and all of that, is now focused down on that one little hurdle. So I've actually changed it now. I shared it with Tim this morning. We were having a chat, and it seems to land a little bit easier with people. I've stopped saying personal, and I've added on 3 letters. And what we need to do is show a bit of personality. And people don't flare up so much. So the personal thing is, what do you mean? What do you mean? Am I going to have to start, you know, like showing pictures of my kids and confessing that I'm useless? No. We just have to get over you, your colleagues, and your cultural personality at work. We need to put that to work for us because it will help us. And that seems to land a little bit more. So less.
You changing that is a recognition that you can't change the wind, but you can change your sails.
You can change your sails.
Whoa,
Beautiful.
bringing it all the way
And that's
back.
SALES.
Ah,
Oh, yes.
Can you give us a drum roll?
Very nice.
Yeah. 1 second. I'm going to have to get to a sound. Here we go. There we go. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm here every Friday.
Take me through that again, Eric, please.
What the sort of
personality thing? I didn't get it.
Right. So we typically meet with people and they're like, come and talk to us, and we go in and we talk about what this is all about, and we say, right, so we need to get this mix of assistance and belief and core, and so we need to get this mix of, this is a person who's clearly a specialist, clearly the high watermark in their industry. We need to get that across, but not in an overwhelming way. So we need about 50% of your content to resonate with that, but don't sell at us. Give us thought leadership and insightful content. We need a little bit of assistance and sharing. So let's give something to our network, so that they understand that we're not just here to take, we're actually here to give. Our content should be helpful to people, if it can be at all. And then give us a bit of insight into we used to say, personal lives. And that's the only bit that's heard. What? Personal lives? So I've flipped that a little bit. So what we need to do is give a little bit of insight into your personality and your company's personality, your colleagues' personality, your teams, your departments, your groups. That seems to land a lot softer with people, because what we're not looking for is for someone to start out in their first week on playing their life out on social. Right, I've done a couple of bits of core content. I've done a couple of bits of assistance content. And now what I need to do is sit down and make a video where I'm crying.
I've got the kids lined up.
And I'm going to,
uniform.
So what we're trying to do is show the world your real personality on your terms. It doesn't mean that we're going to have to go to like the very core of the onion. Over a period of time, I've also noticed that people get more comfortable with that. So the first sort of personality-based post will be one layer off the onion, the orange skin on the outside. A few months later, they wow you with the fact that they've gone 3 or 4 layers deeper on the onion and are quite comfortable. It comes, as Tracy said earlier, with the confidence and repeatability, and also the fact that they realise that I posted that thing about the fact that I'm really struggling with something, and people rallied round me. The world didn't spin off its axis. LinkedIn didn't disconnect me. I've actually gained followers, and I've actually got a couple of conversations out of it, and nobody died. Nobody died. And actually,
and I got more conversations than I did if I'd made 100 cold calls.
100 cold calls, yeah. I sat and wrote. I sweated. It's we hear this quite a lot, all of us. I sweated over that article for 4 hours. 4 hours I sweated over that article. It was the best thing I've ever written. It demonstrates me as a true specialist and professional, and it got 5 or 6 bits of engagement and a couple of comments. I put out my post, which was trying to play into that personality mix and all that, and that's the one that people walk forward to. Shock, horror, gasp, amazing. People connected with the humanistic story.
Richard says we have to differentiate between the public part of our personal lives and the private part of our personal lives. So
That's
social has,
profound.
yes, it is. Yes, social has forced us to think about where the boundary lies. Very
Yeah,
good.
very-
I think
that's-
it's
yeah.
important because, similar to what you said, Eric, it's where you're comfortable, right? The boundary is determined by each of us individually. We don't
Correct.
have all the same boundaries. So it's important to remember.
Absolutely. I took a punt recently, and went right to the core of the
You
onion,
did.
and nothing but good came out of that. Nothing but good. I realised that I was tending to just show the highlights. This is what we were talking about the other day, but I wanted to show the deep lights. That if you really know me, then you should know about this. and I put it out there, and I had nothing but good came from that. That I wanted to be able to show people that I went to the extreme of private, and only good came out of it. Only good came out of it. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that every month or every quarter. I might never do it again. But I wanted to see what happened when you went right to the very core, and only good came of it. But I'm not saying everyone should do that. That was a deep breath moment and a bit of a, here goes. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, exactly, Andrew. Exactly.
Andrew says, if you mention it has to be personal, people will think you have to tell them your life story. If you show their personality, it shows they do what they think and how they interact and how they are with others, and shows the person without telling anything private.
Well, I think there's a big difference between personal and private, isn't there? And I think
Yes.
that's one of those things. And for people, showing what life away from work looks like on a work platform is really positive. There will obviously be some things about which you may be deeply ashamed. I don't mind sharing on here that I support QPR as far as football goes, which obviously
I'm out of here.
Yeah, lots of people say that oddly. But fundamentally, there will be things that that you don't want to share, that are locked in your private locker, away from public gaze. But there's loads of other stuff which makes you look more human. Here I am washing the car. Here I am doing the things that, because all of the network, coming back to the idea of networking, networking begins with demonstrating you like the person that you're talking to. That's why people talk about football and about weather and about travel and about holidays and about cars and about whatever. And the reason they talk about those things is because when you're talking about the fact that you love Tesla and I'm talking about the fact that I don't, that's a point for us to have a discussion. And then, we see our commonality.
Rob.
So, I actually had a different article that I was going to bring today, but I was reading through LinkedIn yesterday, came across this, and it just stopped me in my tracks. How do I build a content strategy? And we hear things like he advises client on the content and planning and so on. And I had a very knee-jerk reaction to it. My reaction was, not everyone that's both people and actually wants to be a thought leader. How do I build a content strategy? But how many of them are really asking, how can I have this done?
Your audio is going a bit, Rob.
With my real work.
I'm going to say that was the most profound thing that Rob's ever said. and we lost it.
So I don't know where you're
back. You're
back.
Rob, there's a glitch with Restream that if you share a screen, often I'm going to say the vocal, the sound basically gets broken up. So
it steals all your bandwidth.
Yeah. So the best thing to do is probably to start again, and I won't put the screen up.
All right. So you saw the post that I shared, and my gut reaction was, not everyone, both people and companies alike, actually wants to be a thought leader. How many of the people that are saying, how do I build a content strategy, are really asking, how can I have this content thing done for me so that I can get on with my real work?
I think that's something that's like pretty common with content, actually. And I hear that really often, is that people will ask these types of questions like they're trying to build it themselves, but really what they're looking to do is outsource it. And for me, it's frustrating because everything I talk about is authenticity, authentic brand voice. And especially for solopreneurs, it's not an authentic brand voice. Is someone going to go and write a whole bunch of social media posts for you? Right? It's just not. So that's fine. You can do that. There are people who are good writers who can create content. I've always thought this about like blogging strategies too, right? People are like, well, I have to write a blog. it's good. Yes, having long form content is good. But if you hate writing long form content and it's painful for you, and the only thing you're going to do is outsource it, so really what you're doing at the end of the day is sharing someone else's perspective, then is it worth the effort? Like we were talking about earlier, finding your own way of how these things can work is, I think a lot of times when people see questions like the one you posted, Rob, how do I create a content strategy? People have an answer. This is the one way to create an effective content strategy. And that's just not a thing, right? That's someone's one way, and it will work for a very small percentage of people. And then a lot of people end up giving up on content because they don't feel comfortable creating it that way. And then we continue to maintain a, what is it, 1.7, 1.8% of LinkedIn users or content creators.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Anything else, Rob?
No, that was really the gut reaction that I had to it, and it just.
I think you're right, Rob. I don't think everybody can be a content creator, and I don't think we'd want 100% of the people on LinkedIn to be content creators. LinkedIn might want that, but I don't think the audience would.
I think a lot more people can be than choose to be. I think a lot of people don't want to be, but feel like they're told they have to be.
Yeah, and I think some of that is, there's a content muscle that you have to, you go to the gym and you build that up. I mean, I know someone that was recently, I know someone in my network who was told by their boss that they had to create content, and they resigned and they went and got another job. And they said, at least I can sit in this job quietly for 5 years until I retire and not have to create content. And that's a true story.
It's quite scary, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it is. But the organizer. Well, it's scary for the organization because we're saying you need to create content, but they weren't providing them with the ability to do it. Which is, I'm trying. It's a bit like saying you got to drive a car, but I'm not going to give you driving lessons. You just got to get in and drive, and it's like, and of course over here we have one of those funny little stick things you have to change gear and stuff. So
speak for yourself.
So it's not right for employers to do that on employees without giving them the ability to actually learn how to do it. You probably wouldn't do that with anything else.
Well, and I think there's an interesting piece here too, especially if someone's being asked to create content on behalf of an organization, is that if your entire employment, no one's ever framed you as a thought leader internally, then you don't have that confidence we talked about earlier to create content. You're employed in an environment that constantly tells you you don't have thought leadership, but you're going to have to go and create it on behalf of the company.
And we all know that what we're told to do and what we've always done in business is talk facts. Here's the graph that goes up, and we've been in this for so many years, and so that's what we think. And most people, when they sit down and actually start writing, it's I work for the most amazing organization in the world, and I'm a tenacious, energetic, thought leader, and all of those things and cliches that come up that we always talk about. And I think that's one of the difficulties that if you're going to tell people to create content, you've got to empower them.
And empowering them has been sort of put through the ringer recently. I was recently speaking to a leadership team at a very, very large company, asking them what they currently do. And they explained in no uncertain terms that the marketing team have this tool, and you're only allowed to post content that's put into this tool, this system. And because of that, they've all got KPIs to post content. And because of that, when something new comes in, there's a scrabble. Now, they have tens of thousands of employees around the world, and everyone's got access to this. So they're all now fighting to get in. They get notifications to say there's a new post being put in. The text is done, the hashtags are done, the image is done. You don't have to do anything. You simply copy and put that in and put it out as your own content. And that's all you're allowed to do.
But you put it out as your own spam, you mean?
Put it out as your own spam. So they're now in this horrible dichotomy where every Monday morning, over 10,000 of the same post goes out as original content from 10,000 separate accounts. And
what a fantastic way to get blacklisted by Google.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you know, they just sort of backtrack that week. So the same stuff, tens of thousands of the same text, same hashtags, same images, just being washed around the internet constantly, and people are just opting out.
The two things. One is that the marketing team there is probably reporting that they're killing it on social.
Oh, they are.
Not killing social, but killing it.
Killing it. Killing it.
I think.
It wasn't Contently, Alistair. It was other brands of advocacy tools are available.
And I you know, I've seen content shared where there's gamification on it. So they actually people have actually shared on social media that they got 20 points or whatever is the thing for sharing that. And that tool, I don't know whether it's taken it away. Cisco used to use it, and Cisco employees used to say at the top, shared by, and you got 10 points or whatever it was.
Yes, got the badge. KPI.
I've got to get up there, you know, I'm in that league table, and I've got to get up to the top.
It's like Tracy and her business cards. I'll tell you a little secret. I'm not going to tell you who it was. I once joined an organization, and I joined on the day that they were having. You win. I joined on the week that they were having an event. So my boss at the time said, "Why don't you go and meet the team that are at the event?" So I went to the event and I walked around, and this genuinely happened. I walked onto the stand, beautiful stand, lots of people. I thought, crikey, this is expensive production and all the stuff. There's televisions everywhere. There's video that's been made for the event. And I noticed a big goldfish bowl, and next to it in a presentation case was an iPad. And it said, win an iPad, just submit your business card. And when I spoke to the sales leader, I said, what's the deal with that? Are you giving away one a day? And he went, nah, we've had that about 8 shows. We never give away the iPad. We're told to collect 200 business cards by the CEO, and that's how we collect them. Nice. No one wins, and no one has ever followed us up.
Tracy, do you want to go next?
Yes, I can go.
That's hilarious, Eric.
Yeah, no one ever wins the iPad. He said, I don't even know if there's an iPad in the box.
Okay, so mine is quick, and if it's giving me audio problems, just feel free to take the image away there, Tim. But it's funny because we were talking about selfies earlier. This is clearly a selfie. My friend Niti, who's spoken on a bunch of my panels, one of the things I love about her content, I don't know if you guys can read the first sentence, but it says, I used to cringe every time I heard the word personal brand. And how many other people have done that? This
Everybody.
is one of the things, right? And it's like, it's fun for me because as a personal branding coach, this is where my clients come from, people who cringe when you say personal brand. But the thing that she goes into is there's like all the things about it that made her cringe. And it's all about having to be someone else. One of the things that I think that she does brilliantly is invite people into her story so that people can find that alignment. Like, yes, I always thought in order to have a personal brand, I have to be extroverted. But what if I don't have to be extroverted? Also, every single one, I haven't read every single one, but the majority of her posts have a question at the end. So at the beginning of this conversation, we're talking about starting a conversation. And in this one, she's talking about whether she wants other people to control her story or if she wants to control her story. And she asks people, what do they want? And look, look at the engagement, folks. 62 comments, because she's surrounded by people who want to have a conversation about personal brand. So this is the other thing. Adam was talking about it right at the beginning too, about curating your network, right? Like, she's having a conversation that people in her network want to have, and she's inviting people into the conversation. Hence, a conversation. So, this is just one of my favorites. Follow me, she has lots of fantastic things to say.
It's the social dream, isn't it? It's the social dream that you put yourself out there, you put your thoughts and your insights and your perspectives on the world, and people actually rally around and say, "Yes, we're with you on that. Let's have a chat. That's cool. That's
Let's
absolutely
have a
cool."
conversation.
I
Well,
think
and
the
it's
other thing-
actually one of the things I'll just add, because I definitely want to hear what you want to say, Adam. But I had a conversation with Niti a while ago, and she just recently, like, she was a lawyer in her past life. She's now moved into coaching. And in that process, she had this, I think, something similar to a lot of people, this mindset shift of like, well, I've spoken about these things for so long, and now I'm not going to. So what am I going to say? And we had a really interesting conversation about how there's already people following you because of how you say things, because of, she talks a lot about diversity, inclusion, like she has kids, so she talks about parenting, right? These are the reasons why people follow you. And so if you keep showing up as your authentic self, people are going to keep following you. Then they don't care that you change jobs.
Obviously, it's Harrison's singing hour.
Nicholas is awake, if you can hear him in the background.
Yeah, sorry, Nicholas, not Harrison. That's another friend. Oh my goodness, Nicholas, not Harrison. So I think the moral of the story is you can do all of this and you can reap all the benefits of it, or just buy a big advocacy tool and join a big pod.
I think, though, that the thing that people often don't stand back and look at is that if you just think about LinkedIn, there's 750 million people on LinkedIn. You don't want to speak to all of them. You don't even want to appeal to all of them. And what you're not looking for is clients. What you're looking for is good clients. And by good clients, I don't mean clients that pay your invoices on time. I mean clients for whom it is a joy working with them. And the best way to do that is to find clients who like you and think the same things are important that you think are important. And the way you do that is by being yourself. In the same way that the way you make proper lifelong friends with people is by being yourself, not by pretending to be somebody you're not.
I'm going to be myself and say good morning to
Oh my God.
who needs a haircut.
It's Nicholas.
Shaggy.
Nicholas,
Yeah,
not Harrison.
welcome to our world. We all need.
Hello, Nicholas.
Yeah, that's how you can look like the rest of the guys.
I've actually got a little house guest right now. I'm going to go away. And get our house guest because I think
Go on.
Nicholas might like this. Just 1 second. 1 second.
You got any content you want to talk about today?
Eric is when he has to duck to go through the door.
Yeah.
I know. This is the funny thing about like Zoom, right?
Ceiling fans.
Oh, Nicholas wants to talk about ceiling fans. That's the kind of content that gets him.
Ceiling vents.
Ceiling fans.
Fans.
Yeah.
What, like with a scarf and a bobble hat? Oh no, different kind of fan that is, isn't it? A big rubber hand.
Come on, Eric.
Oh, he can't hear us, can he?
No.
He can't hear us, no. Oh, look it.
Oh,
A puppy.
Ah, look at that.
Oh, I love George.
Meet George.
George.
This is George.
George.
George is a miniature dachshund.
A miniature one.
A miniature one. And he's quite old. He's 8 years old.
Yeah, he looked a bit old.
He's 10. He's 10 years old. Sarah just shouted, he's 10.
wow.
So he's staying with us this weekend, and he's a little charmer. He's had most of his teeth removed. That's why he's got a funny little one of these.
Oh.
He's a little charmer. Say hello, George.
Hello, George.
Has he got a false set?
He's not got falsos, but I think he's really only got about 3 or 4 teeth left. But he does a good job with them, don't you? But he's super long. He's very long.
But not very tall.
Not very tall. Not very tall at all. Right, I'm going to let George go because he's getting quite wriggly. Say bye-bye. Say
Bye-bye, George.
Bye, George.
Bye, George.
Bye, George. Don't
That's
tread
the
on him.
viewers tune in for. That's the high quality.
Eric is that tall.
Kids and puppies, and the ratings just keep skyrocketing.
Exactly. If Tim hasn't noticed that you never brought any content to his live, just chuck a dog on the screen.
That's content, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Live.
It's
Live
personality content.
Personality, yes.
Personality.
Any questions? Any questions from our audience? In closing?
We're following Nicholas.
This is just becoming like Tiswas now.
We just need to spit
A
the
very
dog.
successful show. Very successful show.
Very successful show. So that's it. Advocacy tools in pods, paid pods. They're amazing, right?
Well, if you want to be an influencer, I don't. The thing about pods, Eric, is I don't understand. Well, I do. How people keep pulling the wool over people's eyes.
I was really, really upset and disappointed a couple of months back when I got a DM from someone who I was following, who has this massive presence and a huge amount of followers and all that. And it was an invitation to join the pod. And it was paid. It was paid. And my heart sank. And I thought, oh, no. Join the pod. It's quite expensive. Quite expensive. Pay your money. Put your posts in. And thousands of people will jump on it.
It's rather like when you go to one of those one-day introduction to Tony Robbins seminars, isn't it? Where he's on stage and you just love him. You know, he's got you eating out of his hand and everything's going really well up until the moment that he says, and you can come on my 3-day immersion event and it's only $1,000 if you book today. And you go, it was all just come on. Before it becomes a sales pitch.
And I should just point out that one of my blogs is about to appear on Tony Robbins's Facebook.
Good old Tony.
We love Tony. I mentioned Tony, and we've been in contact. His people contacted me.
I'm a big fan. The guy helped me change my life. Unlimited Power, when I read it in 1990, changed my life. So
I know, he's a wonderful guy. Wonderful.
His people contacted me. We didn't have a backlink in one of the posts.
You mean his people contacted your people?
Yes.
Adam.
We had to put a backlink in a post that I wrote 2 years ago. On the deal that they'll post it on Tony Robbins's Facebook page.
Crikey.
Good old Tone.
I thought that was a deal.
Will you still speak to us now that you're up? You're going to be in, live from Vegas. Timothy Hughes. Come on, everybody. Hoo-ha! Everyone breathe. Yeah.
There is the famous story, isn't there, about when Tony Robbins' daughter, he was phoned by his daughter's school, but she was only little. And the teachers insisted that he go in because she had been lying to the class. And she had said, my daddy's a giant and we live in a castle. And the teacher said, nonsense. And she goes, no, really, my daddy is a giant. And obviously he's 6'8" or something, isn't he? He's huge. And they did live in a castle.
Yeah, absolutely. One of many castles.
Indeed.
Many castles.
Indeed. So the daughter had the last laugh, I believe.
Big time. Are we done?
We are. Thank you, everybody, for all the content. Dogs.
Kids.
Kid. Nicholas.
Bald people with hair.
The pilot there with his red shirt on. All the people, Alistair, Andrew, Richard, and all the people that tuned in. Really appreciate it. I thought it was a good debate. Hit some really good points. And we'll be here next week. Maybe Adam's mate will turn up.
Maybe. You never know.
If that's not a draw, what is?
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Cheers.